Welcome to CosmoFactory, a podcast by Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna, where we explore the entire cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance industry supply chain. I'm your host, Deanna Utrusky, and here at CosmoFactory, we look beyond the trends to discover the ideas, initiatives, and innovations that are truly advancing beauty. Let's get started. This episode is about hybrid packaging design. It's about visual and textural trends, about engineering, decoration, and innovation. And it's about how packaging can not only contain and dispense product, but wonderfully communicate the spirit of a brand and the sensibility of a formulation. For today's episode of the CosmoFactory podcast, I am speaking with Andrea Ucchino, Design Director EMEA of Berlin Packaging's Studio 111. Andrea, welcome to CosmoFactory.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to share our competence with such a big audience.
Wonderful. No, you're welcome, and we all appreciate your being here. Now, when I look at designs from Berlin Packaging, it seems to me that your job involves artfully interpreting a product. Maybe I should even say artfully interpreting the innovation, the efficacy, the emotion of a product into a practical, functional container. But I don't actually work in packaging, so I do want to ask you to tell us, how does your team think about design work that is both creative and practical?
It's a very interesting question. So for us, it's has always been important to think about design as a key component of, let's say, the whole meaning of a product and the whole success of a product. So it's not a standalone part. It's not like only a key factor, but is, let's say, one thing that has to be balanced to all the other let's say, qualities and key points of a product itself. So to think about design, it's and to be practical and pragmatic, it's to have this kind of right balance, to find this kind of right balance between creative vision, long-term strategy, long-term vision about innovation, about knowing the customer, the consumer, how the market evolves, and even the supply chain, the manufacturing constraint, how the manufacturing process evolve. So being in the middle, like us, between a final product and something that is a concept, force a little bit us on being really practical creatives. Let's say this is our perfect definition.
No, that's very helpful. I appreciate that. I want to ask you about a couple of product and packaging design trends, and I think that will let us think further about how sort of visual and tactical details silently say something meaningful to the end consumer. Here on Cosmo Factory, I've had several great conversations, and there will be more, with ingredient innovators working with various biotechnologies. In the world of cosmetic ingredient development science, some of what we see in biotech could very easily be called advanced technology. It involves scientific research, and it feels very future forward. Can you talk about how you turn this sort of beauty science into a packaging concept?
Yeah, sure. So this is for sure a trend that it's uh, evolving and transforming for sure a lot of things, both in terms of functionality and also in terms of finishes. So when we talk about functionality, for example, we see that products are being really specific, um, and there is a lot of, let's say, look and feel requested from our customer to recall a sort of surgery environment. So it's sort of, even from a palette point of view, a color palette point of view, the use of silver that can be super shiny, so metallized, or using galvanic on ABS or aluminum, or the use of cold material like Zamac, for example, for specific applicator, for cups, for tubes. So there is this kind of look and feel coming from something that has to be, let's say, cold, heavy, because in a sort of way communicate all the technical and biotechnology that is inside the formulation, and even maybe the value of the brand that wants to claim really high performance formulation and ingredients.
That makes sense. Can you say any more about the design cues, sort of the vocabulary you're using? You've pointed out that metal is very evocative of sort of a surgery mentality. But are there other, maybe even more nuanced details that you use to sort of let the consumer know that this is leading edge science, this is efficacy, luxury, quality,
Yeah,
whatever the brand wants to say?
see, for sure, the use of aluminum surfaces, for example, in brush effect, it's something very nice that totally change when it's used, let's say, neutral with silver, and maybe when it's used from in maybe gold or different color, it appears completely different, and the perception of the consumer is totally different. So when you look at something that is neutral, something that can be brushed, that can be like a plastic matte, metallized or metallic also lacquer that is shiny, but not that much. It's more like an hidden shiny surface. When it's silver, always drive the mind to think about efficacy and technology inside the product. When then start to be colored, it changed totally. It can be like for a traditional product, if we, for example, think about gold, matte gold, rose gold, and matte rose gold, it goes into a direction. Or when you think about color like a pastel color, but always with a sort of shine in it, given by the metals, then becomes something like a quite luxury or something more, let's say, sophisticated. So color really can change a lot the perception of a material, let's say, even of the finish of the material.
Yeah, no, thank you. And you mentioned earlier, sometimes there are supply chain or manufacturing constraints, and maybe this next question sort of gets to that. A recent CosmoFactory episode, I got to interview the CEO of Verity. This is a company that specializes in aluminum and stainless steel beauty packaging. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on when it makes sense to incorporate actual metal or fully metal containers into a design, and when some of these metallic finishes or reflective decoration that you're mentioning, maybe other materials, like you've said, the color is very significant. So maybe it's not even metal, but the color or feel of silver. Do you have some particular criteria to make those material choices, or is it sort of what is possible in terms of manufacturing? How do you decide? Is it actually
Mm.
metal or not?
Let's say it depends from a lot of point of view. Nowadays, there is a recyclability of product that is key. The sustainability factor is very important and drive us on choosing one material or another material. So nowadays, there are many options where aluminum is a very sustainable solution when is possible to detach it from, for example, the other components, and the immediate look and feel of a product, it elevates because it's cold at the surface, it's very reflective. Um, Metallization of plastic for sure can replicate a bit what with the aluminum, let's say, look and feel, but then when you touch it is completely different. And even from a sustainability point of view, let's say there are some discussion on let's say the regulation is different country by country, even on metallized plastic. So um, then there is also constraint about minimum order quantities to, for example, anodize the aluminum, so to make special color that if you compare it with metallization of plastic, for sure you have higher MOQ. The color matching is also difficult. Let's say we also do primary packaging and secondary packaging, and for sure, for example, we do also dye pack and flexible packaging. And nowadays we are working on a specific plastic that comes from PP that compare with an aluminum foil but really with a small percentage, it can be still recyclable. So we can claim it like a monomaterial PP toy pack, even if it's full metallized. So let's say the constraint is always about even how they our customers, so the brand, wants to promote, where they want to position the product, and even the shelf life of product is very important, because even when we talk about PPWR, we are talking about a long term, for sure, action that will influence the market, but sometimes a brand wants just to launch product to make the sales grow, maybe for a short period, like 6 months, a limited edition. And so then even, let's say, the priorities on a project then follow, let's say, the business need.
Wow, there's a lot of factors involved, and I appreciate hearing too about material innovation there. That's super interesting. I want to think about a different sort of design trend, and that is the fact that elements of nature are showing up in design. And again, I'll draw on some of my knowledge about the beauty ingredient and formulation sector to say that water technologies, water alternatives, various sources of water, even product formats that evoke water are important for our industry. I think the same is true for clay and soil. I spoke with Uta Scientific earlier this year about their soil microbe ingredient, for instance. So it's not surprising, right? Elements like stone and water are showing up in your packaging designs. And I would even put ceramic materials in here. That gets human hands involved a bit, but ceramics are essentially clay. They have a fairly earthy feel. Can you tell us how you're creating packaging that looks or feels like stone or water, and maybe what sort of brands or products align with this type of design?
Yeah, let's say there is a lot of request. It was coming a lot from the COVID period. So we see there a huge request of, maybe because everybody was stuck at home, and whenever there was the opportunity to go into the network and to reconnect to the network, everybody was going there.
Yes.
So in the last 5 years, we have a lot of growth of demand of, let's say, natural look products that basically can be divided into macro area. One is recreating natural effect by the finishes, by decoration.
Mhm.
So we develop some stone effect lacquering, some watery lacquering, that communicate the look and feel of, for example, a wet product, or a stone look product. And from the other side, even from a design perspective, from a product design perspective, even the use of geometries, more organic, more, let's say, rounded, more
Mhm.
natural, something that connect a little bit more with the classic shapes that we have in mind, thinking about the nature. So let's say we have this kind of two different approach depending from the brand we have in front of. And speaking also about ceramic, ceramic is uh, communicating handcrafted products. Let's say something that is really made by the hand, by the human being. So yeah, even here, the reconnection between, let's say, a product and the people is very important. And even in this case, you can work in two different ways. So, or using real ceramic, that there is a trend of using this kind of packaging, not only in beauty, but even in other markets. The problem is that nowadays ceramic packaging are not recyclable.
Mhm.
So ceramic is not recyclable. We are trying to we are, no, we're not trying. We are developing and presenting officially in the next Luxpack a lacquering that is very special, is coming from another completely different segment, and that will allow us to replicate even all the defects of the ceramic finishes on material like glass and plastic. So let's say even defects and uncontrolled effect given by lacquer that gives a sort of natural feeling to the product itself, but in a word that the cosmetic is an industrial word, so is a word that speak about automation, speak about numbers and quantities. That will also allow us to have a ceramic look product that will that will remain recyclable. So like glass
Mhm.
and plastic that you can still recycle in the correct way.
That's so cool. I want to move on to a topic that maybe feels a bit more commercial. And this is the idea of beauty packaging as a wearable accessory.
Yeah.
Despite what we see on social media, not everyone has Labubu dolls clipped to their handbag. Some folks are wearing lipstick or other beauty products as a bag charm or fashion accessory. Can you tell us about the demand you're seeing for this sort of wearable beauty?
Let's say the demand is quite important. I think is given by the fact that nowadays fashion and beauty and let's say even interior design, they are super connected.
Mhm.
And something like a cosmetic that used to be hidden in our bathroom nowadays starts to be part of the, let's say, furniture. If you speak about home fragrances and candles and these kind of products,
Mhm.
or wearable when you think about travel sites. So
Yeah,
something that
absolutely.
may because it's also like an amulet, like something that you would like to show off because you are in trend, because there are influencer, you see influencer brands that are making this kind of product that are not only cosmetics, but they are trend-setting product. It's a completely new categories. So this kind of demand is really growing because it also opened the door to cooperation between brands that comes from different worlds. So it's easy for uh, some, for example, brand in France or in Italy to develop this kind of high-end product that stay on the bags. From another side, is really easy for Asian brands or American brands that are more linked to everything around the body to develop product that you can let's say hook to your pants or like on a chain or your neck. So it's very growing this kind of demands.
Mhm. That's so fascinating. And I'm wondering if you can say anything about what makes wearable beauty packaging successful. When do you know it's working well for the brand and the consumer?
I think when it goes viral. Uh,
Yes.
nowadays, our let's say how we measure the success is virality on social media that also drives the request on the shops, and then we are the manufacturer, so we are part of the chain for sure. We see the more a product goes viral, for sure, the more grow the demand.
Yes, no, that makes very good sense. And there's so much to cover with beauty packaging. I want to switch a little bit again and think a bit about a dispensing trend. I want to ask you about foam technology in particular. Just as a first question here, what product categories do you see foams being used in most? What's most foamy these days?
So nowadays, for me, it's really crossing a lot of different categories. So usually, the product, for me, product they were used to be used in personal care slash skincare, so for cleanser product, etc. For sure, for eye care. Nowadays, I'm seeing using it even in sun care, for example. That it was for me uh, a good, really something nice to discover. And I see that is crossing a lot of different kind of market. I think it's because uh, there is a premiumization of that kind of products. So people are contract manufacturer are investing a lot in research and development on this kind of formulation. There is for sure an experience part of the use of foamy that unify functionality and design that gives you a user experience that is for sure fantastic. There is a sort of magic, I think, to see this cloudy formulation going outside the packaging. And so nowadays that experience, the user experience of a product is so important. There is even let's say even the innovation rate is growing. So brands that try to foamify formulation to find to launch new product on the market.
Yeah, yeah. And given what you've just said, I can't imagine that this product format trend will come to an end. But do you see that foam is very much here to stay? Is it much more normal now?
I think yes. The challenge is just to make it, let's say, to reinvent it, not to be stuck. in a specific format, but being able to make it, let's say, grow and change during the time, as much as, let's say, the consumer do.
Hmm. Hmm. And a final question about foam, I think, is related to your expertise, which is design. How does foam dispensing influence design? Does it change what's possible? Does it change the consumer gesture? Like the materials. I'm not even sure what to ask here, but how does a foam dispenser sort of impact the design work you do?
Let's say from our expertise, so we are using. There are different dispensing system for foamer
Okay.
product. We are specialized in the most classic one with a plastic pump, with the engine with a spring inside. We are for sure working on monomaterial pump also in this case. We working on creating new formats. When I was saying premiumization of the packaging, we launched 3 years ago the first foamer in glass, 150 ml size, then followed by the 100 ml size, and at the last CosmoProf we launched to travel size that I don't like too much to call them travel size, because to me a 30 ml and 50 ml can be a new format, a new can open, let's say, the way up on new formulation that can stay in this kind of format, but in glass. So elevating even a product that usually is used to stay in plastic in a packaging where you can put a lot of decoration. What is interesting is that the foaming, the engine, the pump, the engine of the pump, it's quite big, so you are always a little bit linked to some diameter and some dimension. That from the other point of view is also an advantage, because this component is such a technical component that is so easy to combine a foamer product with a refill. So it can be with the pouches, because you have a large neck, so it's super easy to refill. It can be a pouches. It can also be another glass bottle with a cup, and you just replace like you use the bottle as a recharge, and you reuse the pump, because this kind of the pump, let's say all the pumps are produced to last as much longer as possible, much more than what they usually dispense. So if you think about 30 ml bottle and the pump, it can last like 20 times, 30 times the quantity, the amount of product they are dispensing. And so even in the former is even such a technical, let's say, components and technical packaging, that I think it's very important if in the future very important. I think it's also we will see a lot of product and brand that will combine refillable solution and foamer packaging.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh, go ahead.
no, let's say the constraint are more linked to the fact that you have a liquid that have to be transformed in this pump that has a big chamber, and so there are dimension constraint in the type of packaging we are using nowadays.
Mhm, mhm. No, that's fantastic. I haven't seen the glass version you were describing. It sounds amazing. And Andrea, I have to say, I feel like we could talk forever about packaging design trends. I thank you truly for joining me here today on the Cosmo Factory podcast.
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you find the Cosmo Factory podcast useful, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts so even more cosmetic industry professionals can discover the Cosmo Factory. I'm Deanna Utrusky. Please join me again next Tuesday for a new episode of the Cosmo Factory podcast.